Everyone thinks they know Wednesday Addams. The deadpan stare, the black dresses, the cello that sounds like a dirge. She's the ultimate quirky goth girl, right? But what if I told you that Wednesday is far older than she appears? Her roots aren't in the 1960s sitcom, or even in the cartoons that inspired it. They are ancient. She is the modern resurrection of a forgotten archetype, born from mourning rituals and the most powerful feminine myths in history. They used to call her an omen, a witch. The first woman who said no. Now they just call her Wednesday. To understand how this character came to be, we have to start not with myth, but with the man who gave her a modern home. We have to step into the unique and wonderful mind of Charles Addams. Our story begins in the fall of 1938. A cartoonist mails a single-panel sketch to the New Yorker. It shows a cracked, looming Victorian mansion. Inside, a pale, severe woman and a hulking butler are calmly pouring a cauldron of boiling liquid on a group of unsuspecting Christmas carolers. The magazine ran it. No captions, no names. That was the humble, chaotic birth of the Addams family. Over 5 decades, Charles Addams submitted over 1,300 cartoons to the magazine. Roughly 60 of them featured this unnamed macabre family. He never gave them an origin story. He simply showed us their world. He didn't pitch a concept. He just kept drawing his strange backward family, and the editors kept printing them. The characters, the mother, the father, the children wouldn't even get names until the TV adaptation was developed in the 1960s. Who was the man behind this? Charles Addams didn't just draw this life. He lived it. He lived in a tall, gabled house in Westfield, New Jersey that looked like one of his own drawings. He collected suits of armor and owned a collection of historical weapons. His Manhattan apartment had a distinct and personal style. He had a deep appreciation for cemetery architecture. He would sketch actual mausoleums, study crypt layouts, and find peace in the silence of places like the Llewellyn Park Cemetery. He was fascinated by what people didn't say about the more mysterious aspects of life. He didn't see his Addams family as monsters. He saw them as functional. They were deeply loyal, affectionate, and utterly comfortable with the unconventional. The real commentary wasn't about horror, it was about suburbia. He once said, "Normal is an illusion. What's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly." Charles Addams passed away on September 29, 1988. And in a move that perfectly matched his unique sense of humor, his widow, T. Addams, didn't erect a traditional gravestone. Instead, she placed a plaque at a pet cemetery. It reads, "Charles Addams and family. Their spirit lives on. His actual remains are not publicly known." This playful, thoughtful plaque is the unofficial memorial for a man who built a legacy by giving life to unforgettable characters. He found beauty in the angles of marble and the calm of historical cemeteries. He didn't exaggerate the darkness. He simply reported the jokes that existed in the silence we were all too afraid to acknowledge. And always, watching from the corner of his panels, was the girl, the one who would become the heir to this entire philosophy. But what would her name be? So, where did the name Wednesday come from? It wasn't a random choice. It wasn't just a quirky day of the week. It was a prophecy. In the 19th century, parents relied on an Old English nursery rhyme to predict a child's future. It was called Monday's Child. Each line was a forecast, a tiny destiny wrapped in a simple verse. The rhyme goes, "Monday's child is fair of face. Tuesday's child is full of grace. Wednesday's child is full of woe. Thursday's child has far to go. Friday's child is loving and giving. Saturday's child works hard for a living. And the child that is born on the Sabbath day is bonny and blithe and good and gay." Did you hear it? Everyone else got charm, ambition, generosity. But Wednesday got woe, a deep, ancient sorrow. It's the only line in the entire rhyme that doesn't describe a behavior. It describes a condition. a weight baked into the bones from birth. When the producers of the new TV show in 1964 needed names for Charles Addams' nameless family, someone reached for this old rhyme. They suggested Wednesday for the little girl. And Charles Addams approved it instantly. He understood. She wasn't just a girl, she was a destiny. But to truly understand why this name fits so perfectly, we have to travel back to the era that shaped her entire aesthetic, the Victorian era. In the 1800s, society had a very different relationship with the end of life. It wasn't a hidden taboo. It was a public ritual. There were rules, timelines, and entire manuals on how to grieve correctly. If a woman lost her husband, she would wear full black mourning attire for 2 years. If she lost a child, it could be even longer. Grief was a public performance. Homes would drape their windows in black crepe. Clocks were stopped at the hour of a loved one's passing. Mirrors were covered. And then there were the photographs. In an age before casual pictures, a photograph was often the last and only image a family would have of a person. This was especially true for children. It was a common, though haunting, practice to photograph the deceased, often posed to look as if they were merely sleeping. Sometimes they were propped up in chairs. Mothers would hold their lifeless children, their faces stoic with a grief beyond tears. These images, known as post-mortem photographs, weren't meant to be morbid. They were acts of love, of remembrance. They were a final keepsake. Now, look at Wednesday Addams. Her pale skin, her pressed formal posture, her hands often clasped or held perfectly still. Her clothes, which are always too formal and dark for a child. That unnerving calm. She isn't just Gothic. She is a direct reflection of that Victorian aesthetic of grief. She wears black not just because it's edgy, but because for an entire generation it was a mandatory uniform for loss. A sentence some girls, in the collective memory of our culture, never truly got to take off. Wednesday Addams is, in many ways, a Victorian memorial portrait come to life. A girl you weren't supposed to laugh with, but somehow you always do. So, we have a girl named after sorrow, dressed in the uniform of Victorian grief. But where does her personality come from? To find it, we have to enter the world of Gothic literature. There has always been a girl like this in our stories. Pale, unsettlingly still, and quiet. She doesn't scream, she watches, and her gaze holds a power that makes others uneasy. To understand her, we need to meet the teenage girl who arguably invented modern horror, Mary Shelley. She wrote Frankenstein when she was just 18 years old during a stormy summer in 1816. But the real horror wasn't just in her story, it was in her life. Her mother died shortly after giving birth to her. She herself lost a child. She was surrounded by loss. So, when she wrote Frankenstein, she wasn't just writing a scary story about a monster. She was writing about the profound grief and responsibility that comes with creation. She was asking, what happens when humans try to wield a power that was never meant to be theirs? Mary Shelley didn't just write about horror. She channeled it from her own life, and that's the key. Now, look at Wednesday Addams. She isn't reacting to the strange and macabre world around her. She is commanding it. She intellectualizes it. She, like Mary Shelley, is a creator in a world of chaos. Wednesday writes, she investigates, she orchestrates. She doesn't flinch from the dark aspects of life because she understands them. Mary Shelley and Wednesday Addams are both teenage girls surrounded by themes that others find frightening. Both Frankenstein and Wednesday are built from a deep familiarity with discomfort and a desire to understand it. Mary Shelley's Gothic influence, the obsession with anatomy, decay, and the power of knowledge shaped the entire aesthetic that would later birth Wednesday's world. In many ways, Wednesday is the literary great-granddaughter of Shelley's worldview. A girl who wields power not through force, but through knowledge. A girl who sees the world not as it should be, but as it is. But the story of Wednesday Addams goes even deeper than Gothic literature. To find her true origin, we have to travel back 4,000 years to the very foundations of our myths. Before Eve, there was Lilith. Her story doesn't begin in the Garden of Eden. It begins in ancient Mesopotamian myth as Lilitu, a wind spirit, a being of the night. But in Jewish folklore, she transforms. She becomes the first woman, created from the same earth as Adam, not from his rib. She was his equal. But equality didn't mean obedience. When Adam demanded submission, Lilith said one word, no. She refused, and when her demands were denied, she invoked the sacred name of God and left the paradise of Eden by choice. She walked out into the unknown. For this, she was demonized, branded, a monster, a mother of demons. She is remembered not as the first woman, but as the first woman who chose freedom over paradise. Now, look at Wednesday. Where Lilith chose exile, Wednesday chooses isolation. Where Lilith was demonized, Wednesday is simply dismissed as weird. But the root is the same. It is the root of defiance, a refusal to conform, to obey unjust rules. Lilith left paradise to build her own domain. Wednesday leaves normalcy to write her own rules. They are both daughters of autonomy, their power wrapped in a cloak of mystery. And then there is Hecate. In Greek mythology, Hecate is the goddess of magic, witchcraft, and crossroads. She is the guardian of the in-between spaces of thresholds, doorways, and cemeteries. She is associated with that moment of transformation, the liminal state between one world and the next. She is often shown in triple form, the maiden, the mother, and the crone, representing the full cycle of life. Hecate is not evil. She is a protector of outcasts, of those who walk between worlds. She holds the torch that illuminates the threshold. Wednesday is a modern embodiment of that same energy. She doesn't lash out with raw power. She operates with the quiet knowledge of what others fear. She is comfortable in the liminal spaces, in graveyards, in the silence, in the moment between a thought and an action. Hecate held torches in the in-between. Wednesday lights candles in crypts. Hecate led spirits to their rest. Wednesday simply befriends them. Of Hecate's three faces, Wednesday is the maiden, but not an innocent one. She is the girl at the very beginning of her power. The one who knows things before she is supposed to. Still young, but with an ancient gaze. She is the dark, feminine archetype. A girl who doesn't need saving, because she already feels at home in the shadows. Wednesday isn't what happens after a tragedy. She is what rises from it, timeless and unbroken. So here she is, Wednesday Addams, a mosaic of ancient myths, Victorian rituals, and Gothic literature. But why does she resonate so powerfully with us today? Why is this archetype making such a dramatic comeback in our pop culture? For decades, the ideal template for a girl was clear. Smile, be pleasant, play nice, keep it together, don't make waves. But then came a girl who didn't just make waves, she was the entire storm. Dressed in black on black, with a stare that could silence a room, and zero explanations. No pastels, no apologies. This isn't just a character trend, it's a cultural correction. We are surrounded by constant performance, curated social media feeds, the pressure to always be on, to be positive, to be agreeable. It's exhausting. And in the middle of this noise, silence begins to look like power. A refusal to perform becomes an act of strength. Wednesday Addams doesn't chase attention. She attracts it like a black hole. She is the antidote to the curated, oversharing world. She is a reminder that you don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to be nice to be strong. She intellectualizes her darkness. She owns her weirdness. She finds family and loyalty not in being normal, but in being authentically unapologetically herself. This is why she's back. Because we are starting to see the value in the girls who don't flinch, who don't beg, and who don't break the way they're supposed to. We're embracing the quiet, the strange, the deeply knowing. Wednesday isn't quirky. She's ritual. She isn't trendy. She's timeless. She is Lilith's defiance, Hecate's knowledge, Mary Shelley's creativity, and Charles Addams' humor, all woven into one. She has always been here, in the corners of our myths and the pages of our books. And now, she's here for you. So, the next time you feel the pressure to conform, to smile when you don't mean it, remember the girl who said no. Remember the girl who wears her silence like a shield and her knowledge like a weapon. Remember that it's okay to be the one who is perfectly, powerfully, and authentically full of woe. We've talked about her name, her style, her myths. But there's another layer to Wednesday Addams that's often overlooked. Her secret language. In a world obsessed with dialogue, her power lies in silence and subtlety. Think about it. Wednesday rarely raises her voice. She doesn't give long speeches. Her communication is an art form of precision. A single raised eyebrow can convey more disdain than 1,000-word rant. A slight tilt of the head can signal intrigue or a death sentence. This is a direct reflection of Victorian etiquette, where a language of fans, flowers, and even parasols existed. A woman could have an entire conversation using just the object in her hands. Wednesday has updated this for the modern age. Her tools are her cello, her typewriter, her unwavering stare. Her cello isn't just an instrument, it's her voice when words are insufficient. The mournful, deep notes are her soliloquies. Her typewriter is the mechanical extension of her mind, sharp, percussive, and unforgiving. And let's talk about that stare. In a culture of constant eye contact for sincerity, Wednesday's deadpan, unblinking gaze is a rebellion. It's a refusal to perform emotional labor. It says, I see you, I am assessing you, and I am under no obligation to put you at ease. This nonverbal mastery makes her a predator in a world of prey. While others are busy explaining themselves, she is gathering information, projecting power, and conserving energy. She understands that sometimes the most powerful message is the one you don't say at all. Let's zoom out from Wednesday for a moment and look at her world. The Addams family is not just a collection of oddballs. They are a walking, talking satire of the American dream and consumer culture. While post-World War II, America was obsessed with shiny new appliances, suburban conformity, and keeping up with the Joneses, the Addams family lived in a decaying mansion full of ancient artifacts and rejected every modern convenience. Their wealth is old, mysterious, and completely detached from the rat race. They don't consume, they curate. They don't buy what's new. They value what is ancient and has a history, often a dark one. A deadly sword is a treasured heirloom. A pet lion is a family friend. This is where Wednesday's character gets its foundational irony. She is the heir to this anti-capitalist, anti-consumerist kingdom. While other kids were dreaming of new toys, she was practicing fencing or brewing potions. Her toys are instruments of knowledge and power, not mindless entertainment. The family's vast, unexplained fortune allows them this freedom. They are the ultimate critique of conspicuous consumption. They don't spend to show off. They spend, or don't spend, based on their own unique, macabre value system. They are so secure in their identity that they are immune to societal pressure. Wednesday, therefore, isn't just a weird girl. She is a radical by birth. She was raised in a system that actively rejects the very foundations of modern consumer society. Her strangeness is a direct result of her privileged upbringing in a parallel social structure. Finally, let's talk about Wednesday's mind. Beneath the deadpan expression lies a robust and practical philosophy, a unique form of stoicism for the outcasts. Ancient Stoics like Marcus Aurelius taught the value of controlling one's perceptions, accepting what cannot be changed, and focusing on inner virtue over external chaos. Now, listen to this and look at Wednesday. She has an almost supernatural acceptance of the dark and dangerous. A piranha in the pool, a hand coming out of a box. She doesn't panic. She observes, analyzes, and accepts it as part of her reality. This is Stoic acceptance in its purest form. Her famous line, "I'm not perky, I will never be perky," is not just a joke. It's a profound declaration of self-knowledge and acceptance. She understands her own nature and refuses to betray it to make others comfortable. This is the Stoic virtue of living in accordance with nature, her own nature. She is immune to peer pressure because her self-worth is internally generated. She doesn't seek validation from the normal world because she doesn't recognize its authority. When things go wrong, she doesn't wallow in emotion. She takes action. She solves the mystery, confronts the monster, writes the novel. Wednesday Addams, therefore, is more than a character. She is a philosophical guide for anyone who has ever felt like an outsider. She teaches us that true strength isn't about being happy or liked, but about being authentic, resilient, and utterly unwavering in the face of a world that doesn't understand you. Her power is the power of unshakable selfhood. So, who is Wednesday Addams? She is not a phase. She is not a trend. She is a mirror. She is the reflection of Lilith's defiance, staring back at us from the pages of a cartoon. She is the echo of Hecate's wisdom, whispering in the silence of a Victorian mourning portrait. She is the logical conclusion of Mary Shelley's grief, stitched together with Charles Addams' dark humor and set loose upon the world. She is the girl who names her sorrow and wears it not as a weakness, but as her greatest strength. She is the quiet rebellion against the tyranny of normal. She is the philosophy that teaches us to find power in our own strange and authentic truth. Wednesday Addams is the omen that walks among us. A reminder that in a world begging you to smile, sometimes the most revolutionary act is to simply not. She is the shadow you recognize in yourself. The part that is too smart, too quiet, too intense, too different. And she is here to tell you that it's okay. It's more than okay. It is your power. Now, go and build your own strange and beautiful kingdom.